Good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Oh, where's that coming from? Good morning, yes, so welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. Martin O'Neill's last game is tomorrow evening, and Martin O'Neill will do his last press conference. He'll do his last press conference this afternoon, and it'll be a time for him to reminisce because it is the last official game. There's no announcement yet from Celtic about when they will bring out brother Wilfred Nancy, and it's going to be interesting. It's all about tomorrow night. It is all about the final team that Martin O'Neill will bring out at Celtic Park. Will there be changes? Will there be any shocks? Will he give players? This was the team that he put out at the weekend, and I think that we all agreed that it was quite a team. And when you look at the bench, there's one thing for sure: since Martin O'Neill has come into the club, the the panic when it comes to the bench seems to be over a bit. And there is a bit of news this morning as well. Andrew Dallas is on VAR. Andrew Dallas is on VAR for the game tomorrow night. What a way to send Martin O'Neill off, because I think a lot of people will remember a certain incident with his dad a long time ago. But we all know what side of the fence Andrew Dallas sits on. Masonic Lodge wise. So, will we get a crazy decision go against us? And will they do their utmost to stop Celtic winning the game, and ultimately going top of the table? Because that's what it's all about tomorrow night. It's about, I mean, there's another way to look at it as well. I think when Martin O'Neill came in, we were about 9 points behind. Nobody saw us overturn 9 points in a month. Nobody. None of us. I mean, we kind of speculated that we could, if we could get to the Hearts game and we're not too far, we can get to the game this weekend and we're not too far behind them, that would close the gap. And we were then thinking, put them under a bit of pressure in December and we'll overtake them in December. No one thought that we would get to this point and in the in this month, and definitely just be so close to them. Do you know, their bottle's crashed big time. Their bottle has crashed big time when you see the league table. And for Martin O'Neill to leave us top of the table looking down on them, it does give the incoming manager a fantastic platform to work with. A fantastic platform, and right into the ring of fire, as they say, for the new manager, because he's coming in and he's got that game at the weekend, table topping game. He'll be judged on that straight away, even though he's only going to have 2 days training with the players, 2 or 3 days training with the players maximum. We don't know if he's in Scotland yet. There's all these questions that need Martin O'Neill needs to. I mean, Martin O'Neill shouldn't be the person that's saying if he's even in the country. It should be the power brokers. Now, there are a lot of people now asking Martin O'Neill, look, if the board were to offer you a job upstairs, would you take it? Martin O'Neill's been such a gentleman and saying, look, he's passing the buck to the manager, and he says, look, if it's up to the manager, if it's up to the manager, you know, Martin O'Neill doesn't want a day job. 10 ahead by the 3rd of January. That would mean for Hearts to lose another 2 games. I don't think the Jam Parts play tomorrow night as well. Yeah, but I think that we'll go top tomorrow night. I think that's all about tomorrow night. We'll go top. I don't care who they play. I think that they'll drop points tomorrow and Celtic will go top. But you never know. You never know. I still think we'll go top tomorrow night. I think that their bottles crashed, and I think that Celtic will leave with Martin O'Neill putting us top of the table. But some people think there will be 10 head by the 3rd of January. Here's hoping for a green Christmas. I think it will be a green Christmas. Maloney will shadow him for a bit. Till those familiar with the squad and surroundings, won't be long before we get the picture. I think that as long as, do you keep? Sean Maloney said he wants to go back to his role as pathway manager, as loan manager. And if Sean Maloney's kept in the picture, they're at Kilmarnock. They'll lose that. They'll lose that. But then Kilmarnock are way down. But Kilmarnock are due to get one over their old manager. Do you know what I mean? So it's not an easy game. Kilmarnock's place in the table, it's a bit of a shock, to be honest, over the way that they've performed over the last couple of seasons. Although they've been shipping goals, Kilmarnock. But when it's against your old manager, that's why I think that Hearts will lose tomorrow. I think Kilmarnock are due a win, and it's at Tynecastle. For fuck's sake. Killie at Tynecastle. No, I still think that Killie at Tynecastle getting one over the road. I still think it's just the old manager thing. I think Derek McInnes is such a good manager. He is. He's always good at taking clubs so far, and then they always implode. Anyway, that's enough about them. Killie only got 2 or 3 less wins than Hearts at Swinecastle. That's interesting. Who cares about them? It's all about what we do, really. If we do end up top of the league tomorrow night, it'll be a fantastic way to. Even if they draw, we still go. Do you know? It's written in the stars. I'm telling you, it is written in the stars for Martin O'Neill to leave Celtic and ultimately leave us top of the table. What a Christmas present. That'd be like Christmas coming early. But he's got a big decision to tomorrow night and what players that he uses, because there's a striker that was brought in and he's got to be on half decent money. In Kelechi Iheanacho. When you look at the fact that Johnny Kenny has been starting from the bench, Daizen Maeda has been used as the main striker, that's not ideal in itself. And I'm going to tell you why it's not ideal using Daizen Maeda as the main striker, because he's off in January. And it leaves us in a bit of turmoil again. Do you know, January's a bigger window than the summer window was. Because what's going to happen over the next 4 weeks is you're going to get Wilfred Nancy coming in, and he's going to get told straight away, he wants to leave. Do you know? And it's a case of, okay, right, we deal with that. Do we have anybody lined up? This is the type of player that I would like to bring in as striker. Do you know, we're going to have to, even if Kelechi Iheanacho stays to the end of the season, we're really going to have to bring in 2 strikers in the next window. I would thought we're going to have to bring in one at minimum, a bare minimum. But then if Daizen Maeda does leave, we're going to have to bring in a winger and a striker. Do you know, there's so many players. Where do you start? And any players that do come in have to make the squad better. You know, whilst Martin O'Neill's been fantastic, Rangers won't beat Hearts. Nah, I don't think they will. But I'm not really fussy about them. I just want Celtic to get through the end of December. I want Celtic. See, my worry is Celtic always drop points in December. You got to remember, last December we lost 2 games on the trot, and that's never happened in December. We always drop points. We always draw a game. I hope that the new manager comes in and gives us an absolutely fantastic run and goes on a run where you're thinking, yep, you know, he's kept Sean Maloney, he's kept Mark Fotheringham, and there's that bit of stability there while he comes in and changes things around. But ultimately, I think that if he can go on a run, if he can take this squad of players on a run until the end of the season, until the end of December, that will give us a nice little boost in January. You know, does Jota come back in January? Does Jota come back in February? When you look at the game tomorrow night, when you look at the referee, the referee is Duncan Nicholson, and on the line you've got David McGeehee, and Alistair Taylor is on the line, and then in VAR you've got Andrew Dallas and Peter Stewart. There's a lot of people talking about VAR, and a lot of people talking about, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to start complaining about VAR. I don't. It's never been the Celtic way to complain about officials, and it doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Officials have always made bad decisions. Officials have always have made decisions that were there not to benefit Celtic. I don't see the use in us becoming like a certain other club and voicing our concerns about it. Just go out and win games. Just go out and win games. It's the Celtic way. Go out, win games, and then let other people do the complaining about VAR and just get on with the complaining. Because at the end of the season, when you've won the title and you've won a cup, and you never know, this might be the season that we win another treble, you don't look back and go, what about that VAR decision? Nobody does. Nobody gets to the end of the season and thinks about, we should have got this decision. We should have got this decision. What about when Arne Engels got kicked in the face and the player didn't get red carded? Come the end of the season, when you're lifting up the Scottish Cup and you've already lifted up the trophy for the league, none of us are thinking that. Not even one iota. We're all looking forward, and we're all looking forward to the type of player that the manager may bring in, and it's going to be a big summer for him. Anyway, there's a nice piece in one of the media bits this morning that Celtic over the last 10 years have made 150 million more than they've spent in the transfer market. And at the same time, Rangers have lost 115 million. That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. I mean, they've made a loss every year. I don't know how they get away with making a loss for 10 years and still getting away with it. But anyway, it's all directors' loans and dodgy money deals, isn't it? Who cares about them? It's all about Celtic. The fact that Celtic are about to appoint a new manager. It's interesting that the Bodo Glimt manager has had a bit of a tanking the last game of the season. They got absolutely pumped 5-0. So there you go. Even if Knudsen was to stay till December, as a lot of people were saying, and a lot of us were saying, just wait till December and get Knudsen in. He's not the man. Friggin' hilarious if Celtic turn around and bring in Knudsen this week, rather than Wilfred Nancy. What? No, it's going to be Wilfred Nancy, isn't it? I mean, Martin O'Neill's basically said it's going to be Wilfred Nancy, but it would just be like Celtic to go, nah, it was never Wilfred Nancy. It's Knudsen. Boom, there you go. He's been the man all along. How would you feel about that? It would be interesting. Anyway, we don't know who the Celtic manager is going to be. That's the ultimate. We think it's going to be Wilfred Nancy. The speculation is all about Wilfred Nancy, but now that the season is now over for Knudsen, who cares? We'll just wait and see. Anyway, let's get back to Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill will have a big choice to make tonight. When he's sitting at the hotel with the players, they'll obviously go to the training camp this afternoon, and then they'll go to the hotel tonight, as they always do before the games. And I wonder what team he'll pick. What team do you think? Tell me the team that you think that Martin O'Neill, and give me a scoreline prediction. We'll do a scoreline prediction this morning because, let's face it, when you look at where Dundee are in the table. They're down in 9th position on 12 points. Do you know, people are going on about the fact that there's a certain other team that is playing tomorrow as well. Dundee have played 14 games, played one more than Celtic. They've only won 3 all season. They've drawn 3 and they've lost 8. They've only scored 12 goals all season. That's not even one goal a game. But they've shipped 25 goals. They're sitting on a minus 13 goal difference. So it really, what we're expecting tomorrow night, ultimately is a goal fest from Martin O'Neill. Ultimately a goal fest. And who do you then bring on as striker? Do we play Dyson Maeda through the middle? Do you bring Johnny Kenny back in? Do you bring Kelechi Iheanacho in from the cold to start a game at Celtic Park? He'll need game time. The new manager will want to see everyone, or does Martin O'Neill just go with the strongest team that he thinks that, obviously he'll go with the strongest team that he thinks will win the game. But I wonder how much influence that the backroom staff will have for that, knowing that Martin O'Neill is the figurehead, as the father, the grandfather isn't Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill is the grandfather figure, abuelo, as we call him here. As he steps down after tonight's game and talks about the last month and 5 days. What a month and 5 days to have at 73-year-old. But anyway, right, let's jump into the comments section this morning and see what people are saying about scorelines. According to Facebook, Nancy's has knocked back Celtic and pulled out. According to Facebook. Oh, Jesus. According to Facebook, Rangers never died either. Celtic 4-1. Tony Stewart. 7-0. Stephen Johnson. Ooh, he's going 7-0. Brendan Rodgers blown 77 million and sabotaging their Champions League, losing another 40 million is the biggest financial loss in our history. Both done great to keep us in business. Could have been bankrupt. Oh. Whoop ass. Go to your cell, mate. Just tell it like it is. Margaret's going for 3-1 Celtic. Andrew Bears in the midweek tonight in Dundee can beat. Let me get some more. 3-0, the good guys. 3-0. I think Celtic will score more than 3. I think Celtic will score. Kenny should have a run from the start. I think he needs it, but are Celtic ultimately utilising Dyson Maeda in that position just to keep his transfer value up there, because they know that he's away in the next window, and if he's not away in the next window, we're losing money. You know, he wants away. We know he wants away. His form at the beginning of the season told us he wants away. If we keep him to the end of the season, I mean, it will be a good thing, but we're losing money big still. But all the chat is all the chat is that he's getting ready to go down to Everton. I think the Nancy deal will fall through. Could be the best thing to happen. God, the negative. I tell you, I'm going to screenshot all these and you're all going to come back in 2 days' time. And you're all going to be, yeah, vote for Nancy. I think the Nancy deal will fall through. Could be the best thing. No, it's not. How could it be the best? Right, go and Stephen, go and reply to that and tell me how it could be the best thing ever. I'm interested to know your mindset, because who did they win? Martin O'Neill does not want the job till the end of the season. Martin O'Neill's knackered. He's 73-year-old. The last thing that he wants is fucking another 5 months of this nonsense of, do you know, the European game took it out Martin O'Neill by all accounts. He was completely knackered after it. You know, the fact that he's not taking the training, he's standing at the sidelines, but it's still, at that age, you're not up for fucking doing stuff every single day. It's like, fuck me, man. Anyway, Kevin's saying 3-0 the Tick. Yeah, I hope Ray Ray's doing not bad over because they're having some crazy weather over there. Thanks for that, Hank. 4-1 says Billy Gray. 5-1 is another scoreline. 3-1. Hopefully Sinisalo starts. Sinisalo's not going to start. If Maida has to produce otherwise, he won't be getting a fee for him in the summer. That's for sure. Yeah, this is very, very true. Very true. Jan gets his hat trick this week. Well, I doubt it. 100% Maeda starts. He's in the shop window off in January. I'm just going through there. Wasn't Yang signed by Ange? Bloody hell. Can't remember. 5-0, same team as Sunday. Yeah, I think so. Lorna's looking forward to Nancy coming in. I think so, anyway. Give Nancy a chance. Don't give a fuck about the score as long as we win and get the 3 points. Yeah, this is true. What's the hold up with the paperwork bullshit I heard? Paperwork BS. I think that if anything, I mean, Celtic have to come out and give some sort of reason why. And I think that Celtic have went, we're just going to give Martin O'Neill one more game. And we'll just say it's a hold up with paperwork. Do you know, Celtic might have just held on to a bit of paperwork for just an extra 24 hours, just so that Martin O'Neill gets the next game. They maybe told Wilfred, and they've said, look, rather than coming in, you're going to come in on the Tuesday, then a game on the Wednesday night. Why don't we just give Martin O'Neill the game? This could be an easy explanation. But of course, everyone's heard it on Facebook and everyone's heard it on social media that, this, that, and the next thing. But as Martin O'Neill said yesterday, Tuxford definitely is coming in. But it didn't seem sure when. But listen, Martin O'Neill is very astute. And he's not going to do a Brendan Rodgers, and he's not going to just come out with things and Martin O'Neill's no beef with the board. So you could say that Martin O'Neill's a yes man and he's just toeing the line. It's not his Place to say. It's not Martin O'Neill's just the manager, stand-in manager. It's not Martin O'Neill's place to tell us when the next manager's coming in. I don't know. No idea. Of course he knows. It's absolutely crazy to think that Martin O'Neill doesn't know what's going on inside Celtic. Absolute bonkers. Of course everybody knows when it's going to happen, but they're not going to tell the media. They're not going to allow the media to take control of the narrative of the story. Celtic, look at everything that Celtic are doing. They're putting everything in place. They're coming out with a new app. They're doing all this stuff to control the narrative. They get fans, podcasts and fan media to come in so that they get the information at the same time as mainstream media. Celtic put out the press conference first before anyone else so that Celtic control the narrative of what's actually being said, because there was too many times at press conferences that journalists were jumping the gun on one sentence and putting that out there as a narrative for the whole media conference when it wasn't. When you watch the full media conference, you actually see that one sentence, put it into perspective, it changes the narrative of the story. And that's what Celtic are doing. And for Martin O'Neill to come and say, well, I don't know when he's coming in. That's above my pay grade. The exact same thing goes on in businesses every single day. Do you know, don't care, no interest. It's above my pay grade. Nothing to do with me. But then secretly you go, yeah, fucking course I know what's going on. But I'm not fucking telling you, am I? It's not falling through the paperwork principle. Nancy will be here. Exactly. Everybody else getting the coddle, mate. I'm not even reading the comments. Like that, it's changing from a 4-2-3-1 to a 3-4-3 mid-season with no training. He doesn't play 4-3-3, 3-4-3. He doesn't play that formation. He plays a 4-2-3-1. Do you know, a lot of negativity around this morning. It must be a December thing. Um, but as my mum says, Martin could do the Celtic job for a year, no bother. At 71, he's 73. She's 70 and put up with my dad for 41 years. 4-0 Wednesday, and Jambos will draw with Kelly, and that'll put Celtic top. Yep, I think so. Sinisalo, still no game time. He's off. I don't think so. He knows that he's going to be the main keeper next season. If he's not the main keeper next season, he'll be. I think he will ask to move, because you got to remember he was a number one keeper where he came from. So it's on Facebook. It must be true. It's on Facebook. I seen it on the Kerrydale suite. Thanks, Hank. The new manager needs to get rid of a few players also, loan them out. Who does he get, etc. Ohm, etc. Now, Odom Ohm's out on loan. What players do we need to get out of the club? Because we already know that, the ones that are out on loan are not necessarily going to come back. In fact, the majority of them, apart from one young lad. When you look at the players that are out on loan, we've got Rocky, who's loaned out until the end of the season. Stephen Welsh, loaned out to the end of the season. You're not going to see Stephen Welsh again. I think Motherwell will come in with a £1.5 million bid or something for Stephen Welsh. And then that'll be Stephen Welsh. And fair play to him. He just wants to play football. I've no qualms about letting Stephen Welsh go. He's been a good servant to the club. But he's just not up there. He's not as good as Liam Scales. And that's the benchmark that Stephen Welsh needs to thingy on. Rocky, a waste of 4 million. Adam Montgomery will come back. Young guy, will he get a chance at Celtic? Has he done enough at Livingston? I believe that he's injured at the moment. Will he have done enough? Can he become the type of player that will progress at Celtic? I'm starting to think not now, unfortunately, for Adam Montgomery. When you look at Odom Ohm, I think his Celtic career's over. I mean, he was signed by Brendan Rodgers in his very first window. That's how long ago it was. And he was one of the players that were brought in the same time as Rocky. And they weren't good enough. Do you know, is that down to Brendan Rodgers? Is it down to the scouts that we had at the time? You could say. But there's been a lot of change since Odom Ohm came to Celtic, that's for sure. You never know. Maybe the incoming manager has seen a bit of Odom Ohm and thinks he could turn them into a player. We have no idea. But there's one thing, his loan is up in December. So Odom Ohm comes back to the club at the end of the month for the January transfer window. Now, will he be shipped out on loan? Will he be sold by the club? We've no idea. And then there's the Lewis Palmer situation. His club have said there's no chance of him being recalled to Celtic in the next transfer window. There was a lot of speculation that Lewis Palmer could be recalled, but they've come out and said, nope, there is nothing in the contract to say that, and we're not letting him go. I still think that they want to buy the player for $2 million. So all the players that are out on loan, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first team players. Adam Montgomery, you could kind of call him a first team player. He's not really a B team player anymore. When you look at this time last season, we had something like 12 to 15 players out on loan. That was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous. So even though those players are out on loan, they've not been in and around the squad. There's the whole Shin Yamada question. Big question mark over Shin Yamada. He's not even making the bench. Do you know, the way that we play with only one striker up front, you're only going to have one striker on the bench. And then there's the Yang situation. Yang looks as if he might be turning into a player. Will he ask to get away? Osman's out until the end of the season, near enough. Iniacho's here till the end of the season with a possibility of an option of another year. Iniacho's only done one thing in one game. But even he's not getting on the bench. It'll be interesting if he gets on the bench. And then you've got to remember that Jota coming back will change the narrative of the squad. So it's where do we bring players in to improve the team? We definitely need to bring defenders in. Hatato Inamura. I have no idea why Celtic even bought that young lad. Um, it's one of the strangest decisions yet. Jemai Simpson Pusey, another player that's currently at Celtic. I think that we should just send him back to Man City. I have no idea why we brought him in. No idea why Brendan Rodgers brought him in, because he's not got anywhere near the bench. The best player that we brought in the last window for me would be Sriracha. And we didn't. We brought him in on a loan. We brought him in, and we can't even buy him. There's no option to buy. They want him back. And I think it all comes down to who we lose in the next transfer window. If we lose Rio Hatate, we're going to have to go out and get a really good midfielder. I think, and it's as hard as it is to say, losing Rio Hatate at the next window would be devastating for Celtic, because I know that he doesn't do it every single game, and he's the most frustrating player at Celtic Park. But how much money will Nancy receive for players? The same money that the last manager. The budget won't change. Do you know, we have money left over from the summer that we didn't spend. That would have been passed on to the next window. Do you know, there's still money to spend. So I'm not worried about how much money. We're not going to reduce what he's getting to spend. If anything, Celtic will know, yeah, we need to go out and spend. We need to go out and spend big. Lobo probably citing... he won't do that. Obviously, Martin can't do the full season. He couldn't cope physically. Keep Maloney till May. Players have already had enough disruptions this season. Another could cost us the title. I don't think it would cost us the title. I think that Maloney and Mark Fotheringham, Fozzie will stay at Celtic at some capacity. I think that Fozzie will stay until the end of the season and then may move on. And even Sean Maloney. You never know. Fozzie might stay on longer. Do you know? Because we lost quite a lot of backroom staff when the last manager left. We lost quite a lot of people off the wage bill that Celtic haven't had to pay out. We were lucky we had Martin O'Neill to step in as interim. Yeah, we were that. I think we were more than just lucky. It's scary to think that Martin O'Neill has 13 and a half years on me. There you go. Good yourself, Lorna. Baz, my pal, is the postman that goes to Celtic Park. He's holding on to the paperwork. Oh, Jesus. It will be something like that, won't it? It's like Celtic visa office. Keep that. 3-4-2-1. Yeah, that's the formation that he plays. Yeah, that's me too. How much do you think Martin O'Neill has earned, including bonuses? I reckon over $1 million. No, I don't think so, because Brendan Rodgers was on $3 million a year, just under $3 million a year, I believe, around about $3 million. Do you know? I think that Dermot will look after Martin. Do you know? I don't think it will be. He's not on minimum wage anyway, and I don't think he's necessarily on an hourly rate. Do you know? They will have paid for everything. They would have put him up in a hotel for the time that he's been here. Celtic will have paid for that. They will have paid for someone to pick him up in the morning. Do you know, Martin O'Neill's no getting a hire car and driving out to Lennoxtown, I don't think. It'd be ridiculous if he is. I mean, he should be getting chauffeur driven everywhere by Celtic the time that he's up here. As for financial remuneration, I think that he will be definitely well looked after. Chilpole says he wants us to keep Fozzie. Yep. Yeah, I'm not negative at all. I can't. Who cares what it'll be? Enjoy winning. Remember these times, long seasons. Enjoy it while it lasts. Yep. Backup keeper must be the best in football. He's a lot better than I think than he gets credit for. Do you know? Ohm has a bad injury. Well, he's going to come back to Celtic with a bad injury. All the ones loaned out will leave. I think so. Definitely think so. Palmer, Rocky, Stephen Welsh, etc. Need to get the wage bill down. But they're off the wage bill. They're off the wage bill as it is. There's the majority of their wages will be getting paid by other clubs. So talking about getting them off the wage bill, I get what you're saying, and it does free up the squad because we are in a short position in the squad. Motherwell is Stephen Welsh level. Good luck to him. I think so. Do you know? And I've no qualms in saying that he's not progressed. And when he's not a bad player. Stephen Welsh isn't a bad player. He just hasn't been able to reach the heights. And Stephen Welsh was saying, "Well, I wasn't given enough game time at Celtic." You know, it's hard to play in training and then step up to the levels at Celtic. You've got to remember that Stephen Welsh did okay when he was called upon. He's not a bad player, but was Nancy a backup keeper? He only played 35 games in 10-year playing career. No idea. Nancy will get 3 players of his choice. The rest will be board brought. I'm not going down this road again. Martin O'Neill isn't knackered bad, as he said himself. He's reinvigorated. He's also ruled out as returning to manage another club in a stint. I'm only going by what people have said that after him getting home from the Feyenoord game. People that have connections within the club. He was all I said that he was knackered after the Feyenoord game, getting home, landing at 2:00 in the morning, then getting back to his hotel, nearer 3:00 and whatever, and then getting up the next day. Took it out of him. It would take it out of me. Never mind taking 73-year-old. You're like, fuck that. I got home at 3:00 this morning. I'm lying in my bed. That happens now, and I'm want to lie in my bed till 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm not want to have to get up, take my fucking sorry old arse into Lennoxtown to do a press conference. That's for sure. But like I say, that's just what I'm getting told about what happened after that game. And as much as he loves it, it did take it out of him, as it would anybody at that age. I think Rocky was a mistake to let him go. I'm not sure if it was a mistake to let him go. Ohm has a serious illness. Career could be over. I didn't know that. But anyway, I don't think it's negative, but it's pure sadness about losing O'Neill. The same feeling losing Ange and Henrik all these years. I've not got any qualms about the way we lost. We didn't lose Ange. Get that narrative out your head. You remember, Ange Postecoglou was offered the deal weeks and weeks and weeks before. We all seen the picture of Dermot, his son, standing with Ange with a bit of disbelief on their face that they just offered him a $3 million a year contract, and he said, no, let's wait till after the Scottish Cup final. And then before the Scottish Cup final kicked off, inside Hampden, Ange Postecoglou turned around to Lowell and Dermot and said, I want to go and speak to Spurs. Hence the reason when we won the game, those two, rather than jumping about excited that we won the game, were standing like this. Because they knew the manager's away. So don't give me this nonsense about losing Ange. He fucked off. He was offered $3 million a year and he didn't want to take it up. And even after the game, Martin O'Neill said to him, are you going to stay at Celtic? And what was his response? What the fans need to remember is that they'll lose some of their biggest players. Don't get too attached to your stars, because some of them want away. Fucking Ange Pish. Guy came in, he was a journeyman. He came in, he done well, and he buggered off. That was always his plan. Always his plan. Anyway, open the biscuit tin, make the bank balance count. Oh, yeah. Right. His calves, which causes muscle to expand, puts pressure on the nerves, blood vessel, and runs. Wow, I didn't know that. Well, there you go. It's going to be an exciting time, says Jim. I think so. CCV could benefit with someone else that are on the scales as a long-term partner. I'm at the point now that CCV needs to be sold. Give me one season that Cameron Carter-Vickers has not been out with a long-term injury. He missed Europe. He always misses the start of the season for some reason, and now he's had another long-term injury. I don't think that Cameron Carter-Vickers is a long-term solution to a solid back line at Celtic, and that's just my opinion. Brendan brought some shit. Yeah, he did. So did Ange. Ange brought some shit in as well. But we don't talk about that. You just talk about the good times. It's because Scales is Irish. He embodies Celtic spirit. Does that. Sarachi's transfer market value is 1.4 million euros. Brendan destroyed the seam before he bolted. Yeah, he did. Do you know? He did that. But anyway, we move on. I'm going to jump through some of these comments. Baz, if you can run the channel at the same age as Martin O'Neill, surely you could stay on. Mate, if I'm still doing this when I'm 73, Jesus. Folk will be like, fucking know that old fucker again, man. Jesus, that would be 30 years on YouTube. Holy fuck. That would be 30 years on YouTube. More than 30 years. Because this channel's been on the go for 15 years already. That would be 35 years on YouTube. Could you imagine that? Oh my days, man. Could you imagine that? 35 years on YouTube. That's a thought I've never thought about, actually. There we go. There's that. That's a comment and a half, eh? But it's easy sitting here. The wife might not say so because she's like, I think if I was to be on that long, I would get a wee soundproof room and she would lock me in it. Fucking, I'll let you out when you've shut the fuck up. And the further, like, we'd need to get a house that would have, like, she couldn't hear me speak. That's just being honest. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Right, I'm just going through this. We will be champs in the end. Do we need some Scottish players in for the European element? That's a good question. I think that we will need some Scottish players, but who do we bring in? Who can come in? That opens up a different question altogether because we're not producing young players, and it's okay saying go out and buy the best Scottish talent, but then that opens up the real issue at Celtic. We have not. Who was the last player to come through the academy and do well? You've got young Colby Donovan coming through just now, but really the last player to come through and do really well, you would say, was Kieran Tierney. Now you have to remember that Tony Ralston came through the team the same time as Tierney. And Kieran Tierney went away, made his money, made his millions. Let's face it, he made millions when he was at Arsenal and then came back to Celtic. Tony Ralston's been here all the time. And Tony Ralston gets some amount of stick. But I think the big question should be, when will Celtic start producing stars again in the homegrown talent? We're coming at the end of an era. I spoke about this. We're coming at the end of an era this season when James Forrest will move into a backroom capacity somewhere at Celtic. And if Celtic just let James Forrest go, that'll be one of the worst decisions ever. Never mind talking about, they kept John Kennedy on for 27 years. You need to keep James Forrest at the club. He's the most highly decorated player in our history. He's won more than anything. He came through the system. Do you know the knowledge that he has as a player that to take younger players. I want James Forrest to go into the academy somewhere, because having young players coming through the system and having James Forrest to look up to, and James Forrest can tell them stories about when he was in the academy and when he came through, the players that he came through with. And James Forrest is going to turn into one of these players that's in. I hope that he's like a Danny McGrain for us, and he's at Celtic for the rest of his career, and Celtic keep him in the back room, and he's always there. No matter what manager comes in and comes and goes, you've got James Forrest in and around the stadium somewhere doing something. James Forrest might not want to do that. He might want to go into coaching. Nobody's asked James Forrest. Nobody's asked him what he wants to do after it. But my hope for James is that he's kept at the club. But then that brings in the question of getting back to the Scottish contingent. And what it really comes down to is the fact that we're not producing our own good players for the club. And that's something that this manager incoming will change, because finally we've got a manager. I mean, Brendan Rodgers said it. Oh, I bring on youth players. No, you don't. Look at all the youth players that left Celtic. I mean, seemingly Rocco Vata's now worth 20 million. And Brendan Rodgers was like, he's a good player, but I'm not going to play him. I'm not going to give him a pathway into the club. Seemingly he's now worth 20 million. And Celtic will get peanuts for that. Absolute peanuts. Nancy's first team talk is going to be something like Braveheart. You bled for Martin, now you bleed for me in French. Mais oui. Get him from Man City off the wage bill. He's the same as Scott Bain. Jemai Simpson Poozy. Yeah, I don't know. We never lost Ange, Kyogo, Kuhn. They weren't staying. Ange done the same with Australia. With the same, yeah, he did that. Ange agent was talking to Spurs in February. You're right, Baz. Of course he was. Of course he was. A lot of people saying CCV get rid of. Yeah, I'm starting to think that CCV is not the answer that we need, especially going into the European campaigns. That's a good comment. That one. Where is that? James Forrest deserves to pick his own job at Celtic. McGregor will pass Forrest as most decorated. McGregor's got 2 seasons left after this season. I don't know how many is behind James Forrest, but it would be fantastic if Callum McGregor did, because he's captain. But I think that James Forrest, needs to be kept at Celtic in some capacity, just for what the fact that he's stuck around the club. He's seen players better than him come and go, and he just head down and get on with it. Scott Brown wanted to take him. Scott Brown tried to talk him out of, like, James, you want to come play football for me? You get playing every week. In fairness to Ange, saw out the season. Yeah. And for that, Ange Postecoglou will always be remembered in a far fonder memory than Brendan Rodgers. Listen to the podcast secretly when I work with my iPods on. Lol, go yourself. Chill, pal. Brendan Rodgers said a lot, none of it was true, all nonsense and spin. No slating Jamesy, but he never completed the whole season injury free. Yes, he did. He did quite a few. The problem James Forrest had is other managers brought in other wingers, and he was always on the bench. You're not telling me that James Forrest has had 17 seasons where he's not had an injury. That's nonsense, because he's in his early days, he was always there. Anyway, as if you're still on YouTube in 30 years and you're like me, you'll be up and down to the toilet. That's just during the night for me just now. Oh, imagine that. I'll get one of those. We've got done that conversation. Chill, pal, your bosses just came onto YouTube, you're caught. Right. How long have we been on this morning? We've been on for ages, 49 minutes. Not too bad. bit lower than normal, but never mind. No, he hasn't. He's always had injuries with his hamstring. I don't think he's always had hamstring troubles, but then there we go. Let's do a quick check. Let me just see. Oh well. 2013, 2014. Oh well. Look at the pace that James Forrest used to go at. It's no wonder he had hamstring injuries. Anyway, who cares? He's been here and he's done it. I want James Forrest to score a goal before the end of the season, so that'll be 17 seasons at Celtic. 17 seasons at Celtic. Chill pill, I am the boss, lol. I love that. uh, he's missed nearly 50% of game time. I don't care. He's still legendary as far as I'm concerned. Still legendary as far as I'm concerned. Right. Lewis Morgan could have been great at Celtic. Another player, Brendan, ruined. Interesting. Jim says he said for the last 2 years we need somebody to take in from Cameron Carter Vickers. Yeah, I think so. I think just getting someone in to take over Cameron Carter Vickers, because there's another player that's been injured. Will it could be the case that nobody comes in for Cameron Carter Vickers due to his ongoing injuries. So he ends up being at Celtic for longer than we expect due to default. Do you know? That could be a case. You never know. Yeah. My dad's got tickets for tomorrow, just in case it's Martin's farewell to say goodbye. Well, it will be his last, sadly enough, and we will be doing a watch along also, and then I'll be sad. I think Martin O'Neill has to stay after Wednesday's game. Something stinks about the paperwork. Nothing stinks about the paperwork. Stop reading the Daily Record. Stop reading these publications that are putting out stories about, that Celtic are going to withdraw from the deal. It's not going to happen. Stop reading mainstream media, mate. Trust me, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I just go as well. 2013-14 season was his best season without injuries. What position does Balak Wisher? Because he ain't no winger. Well, that's a question for another day. I mean, you could talk about. We tracked that young lad for 2 years. He was linked with Celtic for 2 years. There's a screw come loose on the chair. I need to tighten that up. And whoever was watching them for 2 years. This is why I like Martin O'Neill as manager. He goes to games. Brendan Rodgers never went to games to watch other players. Relied on scouts and relied on staff. What happened to the good old days where a manager would go, right, we got a game off this week. I'm going to jump in and play, and I'm going to go and see this player. I want to see him with my own eyes. And Brendan Rodgers never done that. Didn't even go to games to watch opposition. Do you know? And I think that if Wilfred Nancy comes in and he starts going to games like Martin O'Neill, do you know, he's been watching Martin O'Neill for the sidelines. He'll be seeing that Martin O'Neill has been taking the backroom staff. You get a lot more from going to a game. And I love the way that Martin O'Neill took everyone. Do you know? He took McManus, he took Fozzie, and they're thinking, "Fucking hell, I had such a quiet life before Martin come in." But now they're getting to see what teams are like with their own eyes, their own ears. They're seeing what players are doing off the ball. You don't see that on television. You don't see how motivated, or if a player's head goes down during the game. You don't see that from stats. But when you're at games and you go, right, did you see the fullback there? He keeps on having wee lapses of concentration. You then target that during the game. You don't get that from stats. Do you know, you don't get that. The stats just tell you about him going forward and fucking everything else. They don't tell you about him when you see his head going down. Like what you see Rio Hitati doing when he's walking about the pitch. He's like, stats don't tell you that. People coming to games and seeing Rio Hitati. That's why there's not been a big offer coming in for Rio Hitati, because too many times during his Celtic career, you see Rio Hitati walking about and he's like, his head down like that during a game. Not focused on the game, not looking about and seeing what position, not helping the team, not being a team player. You pounce on that as an opposition manager. Anyway, we move on from that. I'm staying on for another 4 minutes. Getting babysitting twins. A lot of people talking about their beds. You want to bet that this is his last? That who's last? Yeah, I've got screw loose. Definitely. Martin O'Neill went to watch St Mirren before we played them. Not a lot of managers do that. He also went to Motherwell. He went to the Motherwell game, didn't he? But anyway, I think it's good that he does that. He has done that. Let me just do an update. Make sure that Celtic haven't announced anything. I don't think that they would have. It's all just a game of. We're all playing. Everyone is playing a game of waiting until someone spots Celtic staff heading to the airport to pick up Wilfred Nonce. Will it be today? Will it be tomorrow? Will he be in the stadium tonight? I'm sure that some pesky reporters will be watching the game tonight to say, "Oh, it's like that, Wilfred Nonce. Oh, Willie. Willie, what are you doing here, like? Come on. Oh, Willie, give me up." Oh, Jesus. It's Wilfred, mate. It's Wilfred. Anyway, right, that is me done and dusted for the day. Brendan Rodgers was too busy to go and see players himself, and he moaned that we were crap. Yeah, he did, didn't he? I'm just reading some of the comments. Tomorrow night? Yeah, definitely tomorrow night. It's his last game. Yeah, it is. Anyway, that is me done and dusted for this morning. I've done a whole whopping 58 minutes, and there have been quite a number of people on this morning. Stephen, thank you very much. I think I will up it to 3 videos a day when the new manager comes in as well. We'll do a morning report, we'll do an afternoon report, and then we'll do the evening lives as well. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Big shout out to the stars of the channel. What? Why did I even put that up on the screen? What's wrong with you? Lorna Gallagher, you get the last comment. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.